Welcome everybody, I'm Alexander Linz, Head of Content of WatchAdvisor.com. And I have the big pleasure to welcome you today from, guess where we are? Yes, no doubt we are in Zurich and we are at the Bahnhofstrasse, and behind us is the Omega Boutique. And what we are going to do today is we are going to present you, what I am going to present you some Omega watches, and the first one you are going to see is the Speedmaster collection. We will go right away from the very first Speedmaster to the latest and the coolest piece you probably want to have. The story of the Omega Speedmaster began in the 1950s when Omega brought a product on the market that was a chronograph, originally of course not designed to go on the moon, but it was a chronograph that should target technicians, architects, people with an eye, a new definition of lifestyle, a new generation. And all of a sudden NASA was looking for watches to go on their space project, on manned space mission, and so they went and bought from a jeweler in Houston different watches, and it was the Omega. But make the story short, you all know that story. And it was the Omega Speedmaster that was finally chosen to go to the moon, to be the official timepiece on the wrist of the American astronauts. And this is the original Speedmaster as you can buy it still today. It is sold for 4,700 Swiss francs. It's also engraved on the back side here to show you. It's flight qualified by NASA for all manned space missions, and it is of course the first watch worn on the moon. That's a legendary story. Meanwhile, we all know the story, and it's a mythic chronograph that is manufactured today as it was as the watch was manufactured in the time being. It's everything looks like and is like in the past. This is a piece that you can buy today, as I already told you, but of course Omega couldn't stop with this watch, and so Omega decided to do some variations, and let's jump right into the actual time. I take away the Speedmaster from the beginning and I show you a variation that is now highly successful called Dark Side of the Moon. And this is and the next amazing story after or in the Speedmaster collection, when Omega decided to present its Dark Side of the Moon collection, playing around with the moon, telling stories about the moon, the dark side of the moon, the bright side of the moon, and so on. And this watch is also distinguished by its movement. It's another type of chronograph. The original Speedmaster is powered by hand-wound, the original hand-wound caliber, and this is an automatic movement in 9300. It's a different type of movement, of course. And with the series of the Dark Side of the Moon chronographs, Omega really created a mythic watch that is sometimes even hard to get, because these watches really sell like hell. And to continue the story, it's not only the Dark Side of the Moon that is interesting these days. Of course, you can go back in your history and say, okay, the Speedmaster was also very much into racing, and this is the Speedmaster Racing, so-called racing. It's a watch that has been released recently, a watch that is equipped with the same 9000, with the same type of movement. Called 9900, see-through glass to get a closer look on what powers the watch. The Moonwatch, it will always come, just to give you the comparison, with that famous bottom. I'll just bring it back once, with that famous closed, of course, back with the engravement, and the famous Omega Speedmaster logo in the middle. It's like a little medallion that is there. But the new generation, of course, that's what people want, to see what's happening inside. Another execution of the Speedmaster, 8,400 Swiss francs. And of course, why not having the moon on the dial?
a watch that I very, very much like. Many of you who follow what I'm doing for years now know that I'm very much into blue. So I like the color blue, to dress in blue, to wear blue watches. It's kind of a color I always wanted to see on watches, and it is there. And this watch plays around with the moon. We have, again, a see-through case. This caliber is called 9904, an automatic movement. It is, of course, master chronometer certified. Is good to be confronted with a lot of with a very strong magnetic field, so it will not influence the watch. A very strong magnetic field up to 15,000 Gauss will not influence the watch at all. So it is more or less anti-magnetic, the entire watch. It's the newest development. Omega has been presenting a couple of years ago, making those watches pretty anti-magnetic and certifying them in a very, very, very tough process where they are testing in-house for 2 weeks the watches. And talking about this watch with the moon, we are trying to zoom in later. You see the moon, and on the moon you will see the famous step of the astronauts, the legendary moon boot of the astronauts. So it's let's say it's a little hint to tell, okay, human beings have been on the moon, and we will find it's when you think about the moon, you take it apart, and on the right side in the middle you will find that little moon boot on the moon disk of this beautifully, very, 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 very beautifully looking Omega Speedmaster Moonphase. So, and now let me present you the latest and the coolest, the absolute coolest one that will come on the markets in November. And after I showed you different versions, why not opening the dial of the Speedmaster? Why not playing around again with the surface of the moon? And what Omega did here is quite interesting. They took a high resolution picture of the moon, of the bright side of the moon, and they programmed it into a computer, and a laser is now treating or lasering the surface of the main plates. I will take the movement to show you this, and you see here the surface of the plate of the movement looks like the surface of the moon. So it's really, if you go closer, it's you get the impression to really, if you would wear a piece of the moon on your wrist. And of course, there is a dark side of the moon. So Omega took a high resolution picture of the dark side of the moon, the back side. And the engravings were done in a way as you see the moon from the back or dark side. Again, done by a laser. And the laser is treating the surfaces as you see it here. It's the legendary hand-wound movement we also find in the original one. So it's this movement. And it's the hand-wound, the original 1873 movement from the time being. So this is the coolest, the absolute coolest piece to have. Engraved on the case back, we see the words, "We'll see you on the other side." These were the famous words of Command Module pilot Jim Lovell just before losing radio contact when NASA the very first time went to orbit around the moon with its Apollo 8 mission in 1968, so 50 years ago from today in December. But this is the story of the watch. It's a limited edition. No, it's not a limited edition. Wrong, I'm wrong. But limited in the sense that I was told from Jean-Claude Monachon, head of products, that the pieces that would come on the market this year will be very limited, and that's due to the fact that the manufacturing of that movement is quite particular and difficult, and of course of the dial. And so if you are interested in the watch will be sold for 9,700 Swiss francs, including always 8% VAT. So if you are watching internationally, the prices I gave you are always including 8% VAT. So if you want to deduct these 8%, you get then the net price of the watch. But this is really the coolest one, will come on the market, and this is the latest development in the collection of the OMEGA Speedmaster. And guys, I can tell you, this is a burner, a kind of watch that really, really, really is, sorry if I say it, fucking cool. Before I really say goodbye, I don't want to miss to show you my little darling. It's the OMEGA Speedmaster #Speedy Tuesday, the limited edition that was done 1 year ago. I got one. I'm very proud to possess one of these watches. You see here the OMEGA logo, and if I continue to turn around, #Speedy Tuesday, it's engraved on it. It's the first limited edition OMEGA sold through the internet. The watches were sold in only a few hours, all gone. And I'm so proud to possess one of these #Speedy Tuesdays. And this is really one of my favorite babies in the moment.
Guys, thank you very much for watching my little presentation of the newest development in the OMEGA Speedmaster collection. And yeah, I think this was a is a really cool watch. And as mentioned before, the watch will come on the markets now in November. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget also to like our videos. And if you have any comments to make on what you have seen right now, use the comment section just underneath. Thank you very much for watching. All the best to you, and grüezi from Zurich.